The night sky above Earth burned red. Hundreds of alien ships entered orbit, covering the stars like a dark storm. They came from far across the galaxy. The Valkyrie Empire, conquerors of 1,000 worlds. They had destroyed planets, enslaved races, and crushed armies that resisted. Now they came for Earth. Inside the lead ship, Admiral Threx stood before the giant viewing screen. His armor shone like silver fire, his eyes cold and sharp. He looked down at the blue planet below. "Prepare for invasion," he ordered. "Send the ground troops. This world will kneel before the Valkyrie." But his second-in-command, Captain Wren, hesitated. "Sir, our scanners show no defense systems. No weapon grids, no ships in orbit," Threx frowned. "Impossible. Every planet fights before it dies." He turned to the screen again. The cities below were quiet. No missiles, no fighter jets, no plasma cannons, just lights flickering in the dark. "Maybe they are hiding," Wren said nervously. "Or maybe," Threx replied, "they are too primitive to fight back." He smiled. "All the better. Begin transmission. Tell them who owns them now." On the ground, people watched the red lights in the sky. Panic spread. Government sent messages to the invaders, begging for peace, but no answer came. Then, from an old radio tower in a small mountain village, a signal reached the Valkyrie flagship. It was weak and filled with static. A human voice, old and calm, said, "Welcome to Earth, strangers. Do you need help?" Inside the alien bridge, silence fell. Threx blinked. Did he just say help?" The crew looked at each other. No one spoke. "Replay it," Threx ordered. Again, the same gentle voice echoed, "Welcome to Earth, strangers. Do you need help?" Captain Wren whispered, "Is it a trap?" Threx shook his head slowly. "No, they sound sincere." The crew burst into laughter. "Humans offering help to us?" said one soldier. "They don't even have a fleet." But Threx did not laugh. Something about the message bothered him. He had heard every kind of plea: fear, anger, surrender, but never kindness. He leaned forward. "Prepare a landing team. I want to meet this human." The Valkyrie ships roared through the clouds. Villagers watched from windows, terrified. The sky turned black as the alien crafts descended. The landing ramp of the lead ship opened. Dozens of armored soldiers stepped onto the ground, weapons ready. They expected resistance, maybe soldiers, maybe tanks. Instead, they found silence. The air smelled of rain. Trees swayed softly. A small group of humans stood nearby, unarmed. At the front was an old man holding a walking stick. His clothes were simple, his face calm. Threx stepped forward. "You are their leader?" he asked. The man chuckled. "No, I'm just a teacher." Threx frowned. "Do you understand who we are?" "I think so," the old man said. "Visitors from the stars. You must be tired after such a long journey." He gestured toward the village. "Come, we have food and water." The alien soldiers stared at him, confused. "Food? Water? For invaders?" Threx raised a clawed hand. "Are you not afraid?" The old man smiled faintly. "Fear brings nothing good. My people learned that long ago." Threx lowered his weapon slowly. Something in the man's voice, calm, steady, almost kind, made him pause. Hours later, the aliens sat around fires in the village square. Humans offered them bread and fruit. Children laughed and played nearby, unafraid. Some soldiers refused to eat. Others hesitated, then tasted the food and were surprised. It was simple but delicious. One Valkyrie soldier muttered, "These humans, they treat us like guests." Another replied, "Maybe they don't know who we are." But the old man heard him. He said gently, "We know. You came to take what isn't yours, but maybe you'll take something else instead, an understanding." Threx stared into the flames. "Understanding?" he repeated. "We came to rule, not to learn." The old man looked at him. "Even rulers must learn, Admiral." Threx froze. "How do you know my name?" The man only smiled. "You said it when you landed." Threx said nothing more that night. When the sun rose, the aliens explored the nearby city. They saw people rebuilding, planting crops, and helping each other. There were no weapons, no soldiers, just families trying to live. A young Valkyrie warrior whispered, "If this is war, it is the strangest war I've ever seen." Threx didn't answer. He felt something he hadn't felt in years: doubt. Every world he conquered fought, screamed, and begged. But Earth welcomed them. He looked at the horizon. Why no resistance? What are they hiding? The old man's voice came from behind him. Maybe we're not hiding anything, he said softly. Maybe we're just showing you what you forgot. Kindness. Threx turned to face him, but before he could reply, an alarm sounded. One of his soldiers ran forward. Admiral! We found something strange under the city. Threx narrowed his eyes. Show me. The soldier led him to a deep tunnel beneath the ruins, a tunnel filled with human machines, old and silent. And at the center of it all was a massive steel door marked with words in faded paint. Project Dawn. Do not open. Threx felt a chill crawl up his spine. Maybe Earth wasn't so harmless after all. The old man stood quietly behind him, and for the first time, Threx wondered if he had truly come to conquer, or to be taught a lesson he would never forget. The sun rose over the broken horizon. Smoke from alien ships drifted across the sky. The world was quiet, too quiet, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Admiral Threx stood at the entrance of the underground tunnel. Before him was the massive metal door marked with faded human letters. Project Dawn, do not open. He ran his hand over the rusted surface. The metal was old, but his scanner showed strange readings. Deep energy still active inside. Captain Rin walked up beside him. Sir, it looks like an old military base. Should we force it open? Threx hesitated. Not yet. Something about this place feels wrong. Behind them, the old human teacher waited calmly. His eyes looked sad, almost tired. Threx turned to him. What is this facility? The old man said softly. It's part of our past. A reminder of what happens when fear controls kindness. Threx frowned. You speak in riddles. The old man smiled faintly. Some truths can't be told. They must be seen. The aliens moved deeper into the ruined city. Streets were empty. Windows broken. Yet strange, there were no signs of battle. No burned buildings, no corpses, no bullet holes. It looked as if people had simply left. One Valkyrie soldier whispered, Did they all run away? The old man shook his head. No, they moved to safer places when the world changed. Changed? Threx asked. The old man nodded. You will see soon enough. As they walked, the aliens saw murals painted on walls, pictures of humans holding hands with other creatures, symbols of peace and light. Threx stopped to look at one of them. What are these? Dreams, the old man said. Dreams of a world that never learned how to stop fighting, until it was almost too late. Hours passed. The Valkyrie explored hospitals, schools, and homes. Everywhere they found notes, books, and pictures. Each told the same story, a war that had ended long ago. One soldier read a newspaper headline, Global Peace Treaty signed, all weapons to be destroyed. Rin frowned. They disarmed themselves? That's madness, Threx replied quietly. Or maybe courage. He remembered all the planets he had conquered. Each one fought until its last breath, until nothing was left. But Earth had chosen peace. The old man watched Threx's expression change. Now you understand, he said. We stopped fighting each other. We learned that strength without compassion destroys everything. Threx looked around. But now you have no defense. What if someone like us comes? The old man's eyes turned sad. Then we would hope they came not as conquerors, but as learners. Later that night, rain began to fall. The aliens took shelter in an old church. Humans from nearby villages arrived, bringing blankets and food for them. Inside, by candlelight, the Valkyrie soldiers sat quietly. No one mocked. No one laughed. A young human girl walked up to one soldier and handed him a flower. He looked at it awkwardly, unsure what to do. It's for you, she said. You looked sad, the soldier blinked. Why give this to me? I came to destroy your home, she smiled. Then maybe now you can help fix it. Threx watched the scene from a distance. Something in his chest stirred. Something he thought he had buried long ago. Rin whispered, Admiral, these humans, they are not what we expected. Threx nodded slowly. No, they are not. Suddenly, the calm night was broken by a loud explosion. The ground shook. Flames burst from the tunnel they had found earlier. From Project Dawn. Sir, something's activating down there, a soldier shouted. Threx ran toward the explosion. Smoke poured from the tunnel entrance and a strange hum filled the air. His scanner showed massive power spikes. Rin gasped. It's a weapon, isn't it? A hidden human weapon. But the old man shook his head. No, not a weapon, a memory. Threx frowned. Explain. Before the old man could answer, the ground cracked open. A giant metal structure began to rise from below, smooth and shining, shaped like a human hand reaching toward the sky. Lights flickered across it, and a deep voice echoed from within the earth. Project Dawn reactivated Humanity Protocol Online. The soldiers pointed their weapons. Admiral! It's waking up! The old man stepped forward, his voice calm. This was our final creation, not to destroy but to protect. It holds the memory of all we learned after the Great War. If it senses danger, it reacts. Threx's voice was hard. Danger, we didn't attack. The old man's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Sometimes fear is danger enough. The earth trembled again. The hand-shaped structure R. For the first time in many years, the Valkyrie fleet stayed silent. No orders of attack, no sound of weapons, only confusion. After the events at Project Dawn, Admiral Threx ordered all ships to land and regroup. But something was wrong. His soldiers, strong, fearless warriors, had begun to fall sick. It started with coughing, then weakness. Their skin, usually silver blue, turned pale gray. Medical scanners showed no known virus. Whatever it was, it didn't exist in any galactic record. Captain Rin stood beside Threx inside a field tent. Sir, 10 more troops are down. Our medbots can't identify the infection. Threx's jaw tightened. Seal the area. No one leaves the village until we find the cause. He turned to the old human teacher who watched quietly near the fire. You knew this would happen, didn't you? Threx demanded. The old man shook his head. No, this disease has slept for centuries. Maybe the air you breathed underground woke it again. Threx growled. You expect me to believe that? The man looked at the sick soldiers being carried past them. Believe what you wish, but if you wish to save them, you'll need human help. At first, Threx refused. The Valkyrie had never asked for help from anyone, least of all from humans. But when his second-in-command collapsed before his eyes, gasping for breath, pride became useless. He contacted the humans through local radio. This is Admiral Threx of the Valkyrie Empire. We need medical assistance. There was silence for a long moment. Then a voice replied, soft and calm. We hear you. Stay where you are. We're coming. Threx didn't know why, but hearing those words made him feel something he hadn't felt since his childhood. Hope. Hours later, a group of human doctors arrived in old trucks carrying boxes of supplies. Among them was a young nurse named Alara, no older than 20. Her hands trembled when she saw the alien soldiers lying in pain, but she didn't run. She walked closer. Threx stared in disbelief as she placed her hand gently on a Valkyrie's forehead. The alien's eyes flickered open. You're safe, she whispered. Just breathe, Threx asked. You're not afraid of us? Alara smiled faintly. You bleed, don't you? Then you can be healed. Days passed. The humans worked tirelessly, moving from one tent to another. They used old Earth medicines, herbs, liquids, and strange machines powered by sunlight. Slowly, the infected Valkyrie began to recover. Not all, but many. Threx watched quietly. He couldn't understand it. They were supposed to be enemies. Why were these fragile beings saving his people? He approached Alara one night as she washed her hands. You know we came to invade your world, he said. She nodded. Yes, then why are you helping us? She looked up at him. Because we were like you once, angry, proud, certain that power made us right. It almost destroyed us. Kindness saved what was left. Threx looked away. Kindness. He said the word like it was something strange. That word doesn't exist in our language. Then maybe it's time to create it, Alara said softly. But the calm didn't last. One night as the doctors worked, a Valkyrie ship captain rushed into the camp. Admiral, something's happening in orbit. Threx turned sharply. Report. Another Valkyrie fleet, sir. General Kor's ships, he's arrived early. Threx's face hardened. He wasn't supposed to come until next cycle. He says he's here to finish what you couldn't. The air around the camp turned cold. Threx knew Kor, ruthless, loyal only to conquest. If he saw the Valkyrie working beside humans, he'd see it as treason. He looked at the sky where red flashes began to appear among the stars. Kor's fleet was descending. Down in the camp, Alara and the old man continued to treat the sick, unaware of the danger above. Threx called for his officers. Hide the humans. If Kor sees them helping us, he will destroy everything. The old man shook his head. You can't hide the truth forever. Admiral, I can try, Threx said, but it was too late. Moments later, a loud voice thundered from the sky, transmitted across every ship and city. Admiral Threx, you stand accused of betrayal. You have joined the enemy. You are no longer Valkyrie. Threx clenched his fists. Core! The ground trembled as new ships entered the atmosphere. Missiles streaked across the sky, explosions lighting up the clouds. Panic spread among the humans. Threx turned to Alara. Get your people underground. She refused. We can't leave your sick soldiers. He grabbed her arm. You'll die if you stay. She looked up at him fearless. So will they if we go. Threx froze. He saw something in her eyes, something he couldn't name, and then he understood. Kindness wasn't weakness. It was courage. The first wave of Core's fleet hit the ground. The earth exploded in fire and metal. Threx's soldiers, weak but recovering, rose to fight. They formed a defensive line around the village, shoulder to shoulder with human farmers, doctors, and even children holding makeshift shields. Core's ships unleashed another strike. The village shook. Buildings collapsed. Threx activated his comms. Core, stop this madness! Core's cruel laughter echoed through the channel. You've gone soft, Threx. I'll burn this planet and erase your shame. Threx's anger finally boiled over. Then you'll have to burn me first. He turned to his troops. Protect the humans. They are under our command now. The soldiers hesitated, but seeing their commander stand in front of them with his blade drawn, they followed. Valkyrie and human fought side by side. Two species that had met as enemies, now defending each other. The battle raged through the night. The human's courage stunned even the Valkyrie. A farmer threw himself over a wounded alien to shield him from debris. A young boy ran through the fire carrying water to the injured. When dawn finally came, the village was in ruins, but Core's first wave had failed. As the sun rose, Threx stood beside the old man, covered in dust and blood. You see now, the old man said quietly. War cannot be won by fear, only by understanding. Threx nodded slowly. And kindness, he said. The old man smiled faintly. Yes, but remember, kindness has a cost. Threx didn't understand what he meant until he saw Ilara lying in the ruins, wounded but still holding the hand of a Valkyrie soldier she had saved. Threx knelt beside her. Why, he whispered. Her lips moved. Because that's what humans do. And with that she closed her eyes. Threx lowered his head. For the first time in his life he felt something break inside him. It wasn't defeat. It was humanity. Smoke rose over the valley. The once peaceful village now lay in ruins, half burned, half buried. Human survivors worked beside Valkyrie soldiers to pull the wounded from the rubble. The morning sun glowed weakly through the clouds, but there was no warmth left in it. Admiral Threx stood among the ruins, his armor cracked and stained. He stared at the blood on his hands, human and Valkyrie mixed together. Captain Rin limped toward him, his arm in a sling. Sir, the first wave is gone, but Core's fleet is still in orbit. He's preparing for full bombardment. Threx didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on a broken stretcher nearby. On it lay Alara, the young nurse who had saved so many of his soldiers. Her breathing was weak but steady. The old man sat beside her, whispering softly, Rest now, child. You've done enough. Threx turned away. He couldn't bear the sight. He was a warrior, trained to conquer, to destroy, but now he only wanted to protect. The Valkyrie Empire had never fought a war like this, not against humans, and not against themselves. From high above, General Core's ships glimmered in the clouds like hungry beasts. His voice thundered across the comms, cold and merciless. Admiral Threx, surrender your command. You stand accused of betrayal against the Valkyrie Empire. Threx answered with a calm, steady voice. I betrayed nothing. I found something you have forgotten, honor. Core laughed. Honor? You call it honor to kneel beside primitives? To bleed for insects? Threx replied, If these people are insects, then they are the bravest I've ever seen. Core's tone turned sharp. Then you'll die with them. And with that, the sky ignited. The second wave began. Missiles rained down like falling stars. Explosions tore through the forest. The ground shook as Valkyrie drones swarmed the air. Humans ran for cover, dragging the wounded toward the tunnels beneath Project Dawn. Valkyrie soldiers, once conquerors, now stood in defense of the humans they came to enslave. Threx shouted orders. Form lines. Protect the civilians. Use the debris for cover. His soldiers obeyed without hesitation. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they were no longer fighting for conquest. They were fighting for something purer. Beside Threx, Captain Rin fired his blaster until it overheated. He shouted over the chaos, "Sir, we can't hold them. Kor's fleet has thousands more." Threx gritted his teeth. "Then we hold until we can't." Inside the tunnels, the old man guided the humans deeper underground. Alara lay unconscious on a stretcher, her pulse fading. He looked up as the walls trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. A faint hum filled the air, the sound of Project Dawn waking again. The machines around the central chamber began to glow, their symbols lighting up like stars. The old man whispered, "It's too soon." A holographic voice echoed through the chamber. "Project Dawn Humanity Protocol Level 2, Defense Mode." The floor vibrated as mechanical panels unfolded, revealing old Earth defense systems, drones, shields, and beam cannons that had slept for centuries. The humans gasped. The old man closed his eyes. "We built these to defend peace, not to start another war." Above ground, the machines rose from hidden silos surrounding the valley. Energy shields flickered to life, blocking Kor's bombardment. Threx looked up in shock. "What is this?" Rin scanned the readings. The sky was quiet. Too quiet. Days had passed since the light from Project Dawn had swept across the world, ending the battle. The Valkyrie ships floated above Earth like silent ghosts, their engines powerless, their weapons cold. Humans and Valkyrie worked side by side in the valley, repairing homes and tending to the wounded. No one spoke of war anymore. But everyone knew it wasn't over yet, because General Kor had survived. Admiral Threx stood on a hill overlooking the broken city. His armor was damaged, his face scarred, but his eyes were calm. Beside him, Alara walked slowly, her shoulder bandaged. She smiled faintly. "You look tired, Admiral." Threx gave a dry laugh. "I haven't slept since we met." Alara gazed at the horizon. "You could have left, gone back to your people. Why stay?" Threx looked at her. "Because my people still need to learn, and I still have something to protect." Before she could reply, the ground trembled. The sky turned red again. From the upper atmosphere, hundreds of ships appeared, black and burning with energy. It was Kor. He had returned. Captain Rin ran to Threx's side. "Sir, Kor's rebuilt his fleet. He's got reinforcements from the Empire, Dreadnought-class ships." Threx's expression darkened. "He wants revenge. He'll burn this planet until nothing's left." Alara looked up at the sky filled with dark fire. "Can't Project Dawn stop them again?" Threx shook his head. "No, the last activation drained it. The system is unstable." Rin's voice trembled. "Then we're finished." Threx turned to his troops. "No, not finished. Not while one of us can stand." He raised his arm. "Valkyrie, defend this world. This is not the enemy's planet. It is our planet now." The soldiers roared in reply. For the first time in Valkyrie history, they shouted not for conquest, but for home. Kor's ships broke through the clouds, firing plasma bombs across the valley. Explosions rocked the earth. Fires spread through the forests. Threx's troops opened fire, creating a wall of blue energy. Human militias joined in, firing old weapons, rockets, even handmade guns. But Kor's fleet was massive, each ship the size of a city. Rin shouted over the comms, "Admiral, our shields won't last. We can't hold them." Threx's mind raced. There was one last option, the heart of Project Dawn itself. The old human systems were powerful, but unstable. If he reactivated them at full capacity, they could destroy the entire fleet, and the planet with it. He looked at Alara. "If I trigger Project Dawn again, it will kill us all." She held his gaze. "Then maybe that's the price for peace." Threx hesitated. He saw the fear in her eyes, but also the courage, the same quiet strength she had shown when she first touched a dying Valkyrie's hand. He nodded slowly. "Then we do it together." They rushed toward the underground facility. Kor's fleet continued to bombard the surface, shaking the earth. Inside the tunnels, sparks rained from broken lights. The air smelled of smoke and metal. The control room of Project Dawn still glowed faintly with golden light. Strange holograms floated in the air, symbols of peace, unity, and memory. Threx placed his armored hand on the main console. The system recognized him instantly. Identity. Non-human user detected. Access limited, he turned to Alara. It won't respond to me. You'll have to guide it. She stepped forward, touching the interface. The room came alive, golden circuits spreading across the walls. Project Dawn reactivation sequence ready. Alara looked at him. Once I start this, it can't be stopped. Threx nodded. Then let's make it count. Outside, Kor's army advanced. Massive ships fired energy cannons, vaporizing everything in their path. One of Threx's lieutenants shouted into the comms, "Admiral, we're losing ground." Threx's voice came through, calm, almost peaceful. "Hold your line. You are fighting for more than victory. You are fighting for tomorrow." In the control room, alarms blared. The power readings rose higher and higher. Alara struggled to keep her hand steady as the console glowed brighter. "Threx, it's overloading. If it reaches critical level, we won't have time to escape." Threx looked at her, really looked, and smiled for the first time. Maybe we were never meant to escape. He stepped beside her, placing his hand on the console too. The system's voice echoed. "Dual input detected. Final humanity protocol. Sacrifice mode." The light filled the room. High above, General Kor saw the golden light spreading across the planet. His sensors screamed warnings. "Unstable energy detected. Massive buildup below surface." But Kor laughed. "They wouldn't dare. They'll destroy themselves." A voice replied from the comms, calm, cold, certain. "Yes, Kor. That's exactly what we'll do." Kor froze. "Threx, you taught me that fear is power," Threx's voice said, echoing across every channel. "But these humans taught me something stronger. Sacrifice." And then the sky exploded. A wave of golden energy surged upward, hitting Kor's fleet. Ships melted in mid-air, turning into dust. Engines went silent. Weapons vanished in light. Kor screamed, "No, you can't!" But his voice was swallowed by the light. The fleet disintegrated. The golden wave spread across the stars, not as fire, but as peace. Every machine shut down. Every gun turned cold. And then silence. When the light faded, the valley was still. Smoke drifted through the ruins. Captain Rin crawled out from behind a fallen ship. He looked at the sky, clear and blue for the first time in weeks. He activated his comm. "Admiral? Do you read me?" No answer. He tried again. "Threx? Alara?" Only static. He limped toward the tunnel entrance, but the path was gone, sealed by collapsed rock. He fell to his knees. "The Admiral. He saved us all," he whispered. Months passed. The Valkyrie fleet left Earth, not as conquerors, but as mourners. They built monuments for both species, human and Valkyrie, who died together defending something greater than any empire. At the center of the valley stood a statue, a Valkyrie admiral and a human nurse, standing side by side, holding a single glowing sphere, the symbol of kindness. Below it, carved in both human and Valkyrie language, were the same words. They came to invade, but they stayed to learn, and when the time came, they gave everything, for peace. Far across the stars, deep in the empty silence of space, a faint golden spark drifted, the last echo of Project Dawn. Inside that light, two voices could be heard, gentle and warm. Alara's voice whispered, "We did it." And Threx replied softly, "No, they did." Then the light faded into the stars. The war was over. But the silence that followed was louder than any battle. The once blue planet called Earth was quiet, covered in ruins, ashes, and strange golden dust that still glowed faintly at night. It was not the glow of destruction. It was the last light of Project Dawn, the light of peace. In orbit, the Valkyrie ships drifted slowly. Their hulls were cracked, their weapons gone. Admiral Threx's name was spoken like a whisper, a warrior who had chosen mercy over power. And among the humans who survived, The Valkyrie were no longer enemies. They were guests. They were family. 3 months later, a great ship departed from Earth, the Valkyrie Ark. It carried both humans and aliens together, heading for the central worlds of the Empire. Inside, a young Valkyrie cadet named Rin, now promoted to commander, stood at the viewing deck. He watched Earth grow smaller behind them, a small blue sphere surrounded by golden light. Beside him stood Dr. Alara's apprentice, a young girl named Mara. She held a necklace, a small crystal that glowed faintly with the same golden light. Rin smiled sadly. She gave her life for this world. Mara nodded. Both of them did. Alara and Threx. They saved us all. He turned to her. Do you think the galaxy will remember? She looked at him. We'll make sure they do. When the Ark arrived at Valkar Prime, the Empire's homeworld, the people were waiting. But there was no cheering, no celebration, only silence. The Emperor himself, a tall ancient being with silver eyes, stood on the steps of the great citadel. Rin stepped forward, saluting. Your Majesty, he said, his voice steady, we bring news from Earth. The Emperor's gaze was cold. News of victory? Rin took a deep breath. No, my Emperor. News of change. He reached into his armor and placed the glowing crystal before the throne. This is all that remains of Project Dawn, a human creation of light, built not to destroy but to protect. Admiral Threx gave his life to save us all. He died with the humans, not as their conqueror but as their brother. A murmur spread through the hall. The Emperor frowned. You mean to tell me, a Valkyrie admiral fought for a lesser race? Rin met his gaze. No, my Emperor. He fought with them. The Emperor studied the light. It pulsed softly, golden and warm, unlike anything the Valkyrie had ever seen. He touched it, and for a moment, he saw humans pulling wounded aliens from burning rubble. He saw Alara smiling through pain, whispering words of comfort. He saw Threx, standing tall, facing the end without fear. The Emperor pulled his hand back, his expression unreadable. This kindness, he said slowly. It is a weakness. Rin shook his head. It is strength, the kind that no weapon can destroy. Silence filled the hall. Then, for the first time in centuries, the Emperor looked uncertain. Weeks passed. The story of Earth spread across the stars, a story of enemies who became brothers. It reached traders, soldiers, even pirates. Everywhere people whispered about the planet of kindness. Many didn't believe it, but some began to hope. Years later, the Valkyrie Empire was no longer the same. Their ships still traveled the stars, but their missions had changed. They built hospitals instead of war stations. They sent aid instead of armies. They taught peace where once they had taught fear. Every